Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz. On this evening edition, we don't normally do evening edition. Normally we start around between 10:30 and 11. But as it would be yesterday and today had a lot going on, so we are doing this one. And I wasn't going to, we missed yesterday. I was not going to miss today because this is why we, What's Wrong with the Bible edition. We're in Numbers 18 and 19 as we are on this journey of reading this book to see and validate why we walked away from this religion and to have a greater understanding and the ability to have conversations about this when we are approached by others who claim that we are not understanding this book, that we have not read this book, but we are going through it. And if you're finding this for the first time, then we have already done the books from Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. You can find those in the playlist on YouTube, and you can catch up if you like. But we are here now in Numbers 18 and 19. We will stay on the subject matter for any other questions and everything as we go through this. For the first part, after that, we will have a time frame of Q&A, where we will, as always, go into many different subject matters. We wait the first 5 minutes to allow people to get on, but I do appreciate everybody who's already here and those who will be joining us later. Please continue to share the videos, like the videos, subscribe to the page if you haven't already subscribed to the page. I greatly would appreciate that as it continues to build the audience and build in the algorithm. Your comments are welcome. Let's just keep them all respectful as I am to you. I expect that same respect to come back towards me and towards everybody else who participates in the live today. Grand Rising Debbie from Texas. I know my regulars. I know this is a different time frame for my regulars, but we're going to continue to make it happen. Make sure everything is good to go on the other programs. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Of course, Facebook is my favorite, but wherever you are, I will try to read out the question. If I'm answering somebody's question, I'll read it out, say what platform they're on, but as well as now I've learned how to throw it up there on the screen. I'll throw it up there as well. And I hope everybody has had a great weekend, since this is the first time I was doing a live since last Friday. And everything else will be normal. Tomorrow will be a normal time frame. Tomorrow we will start. We have to start on time tomorrow because I got to take the mama lady to a doctor's appointment. So we will be done no later than 1 o'clock on tomorrow. Since our appointment is at 2. So we'll probably be done around 12:30. So we will start on time tomorrow in order to make sure that we get an adequate amount of time in there, about 2 hours into the live tomorrow. But I appreciate everybody who is on the live tonight. It's going to be an interesting one. We're going to get back into a lot of our blood sacrificing and a couple of little things here and there, and we're going to dig deeper into some modern day things that people are thinking based on this particular scripture, this particular writings, I should say, that the Messianic Jewish people are still looking for their Messiah to come, and some of the controversy between what they're looking for, one of the keys, indicators, and signs, and what is supposed to happen, as well as how people look at it as far as the Jesus character. So you can slide that in because we still got 1 minute to start. But Grand Rising Reverse, what are my thoughts on speaking tongues? I think people are just emotional and they get caught up in their emotions, and they are teaching what they're speaking, something that they've been taught, that they picked up from other people. I do not think anybody speaks in tongues. Haven't seen it yet. Would love for somebody to just start speaking and everybody understand them. Then I got you. But most Christians don't even understand it nor do it correctly, as their book even tells them to. As far as healing, I think you heal yourself. You heal yourself. You control your body. So you can decide whether or not you're going to be sick or healed. But there are limitations to that based on your level of belief and your power of your mind, I should say, not even belief, just the power of your mind. Grand Rising Sheila, how you doing? I would love to see a person who believes they have the power of healing to go to a church, or I mean not church, but go to a hospital and start healing all of the cancer patients and regrowing amputees' arms and things of that nature. You want to convince me? Do some of that. Until such a thing, when people claim they have these powers, if it's not demonstratable, then you ain't got it. So we are about to get started. Damn, that 5 minutes came up real quick. So let's get started. Reverse tried to throw in some extra questions before we get started, but you don't have to wait now on any other questions that are outside of the text that we're going to go over today. Like I said, it should take us an hour, 45 minutes, or about 45 minutes to an hour to go through these texts. And then we will get into our question and answer. We will probably be on for about 2 to 3 hours tonight. And then go into that day. I posted about an hour or so ago, I posted some videos on Facebook. I meant to post them on YouTube, but I forgot. And so let me go ahead and give people a couple more minutes to get on while I go ahead and get these posted on YouTube. See, I was going to do that during the 5-minute time frame, but you distracted me. But please check out those videos that I posted today. And if you would be so kind to share them. We have a lot going on over these next couple of months. And we're going to be, one, people have been asking me about the book that I wrote some years, about 2 decades ago. I'm going to have that republished on Amazon, as well as another book that I'm working on right now. I'm going to go ahead and start doing it. I'm going to get that figured out with Amazon and get and set it up for pre-sale, so that once the book is complete, you can go ahead and get that book shipped to you as soon as it's complete. Those things are happening. Just give me 1 second here to publish these. Is everybody enjoying this cold ass weather? We've been schizophrenic here in Georgia. It was really nice and warm the other day and today, and then it went back to cold this evening. Normal Georgia winter. Grand Rising, Gavin. I'm in Stone Mountain, Georgia right now. That's where I currently live. Well, where are you? Grand Rising Echo. I gotta free yourself to be yourself. Exactly. Almost done. I got one more to post. One more. I don't want to leave out the YouTube people. But I did 5 videos today. I think you guys will like them. Y'all will like them. I know I like them. It's out there on my front porch. Grand Rising Ronnie, how you doing? All right. Ha. There we go. Go, Jerry, go. Look at Jerry go. So you guys ready for this today? Are we ready for some blood and some Mistreatment of animals. Grand Rising Aaron, Coach, when you're going through troubles and your spouse says to get in the church, what is the best way to change your mindset? It depends on what troubles you're going through. The best thing to do is figure out what the cause and what the causation is of your troubles, and then fix them. Change your actions in order to fix and to change change your actions so that the causation changes, so that the effect change. Going to church and praying is not going to do you any help. Grand Rising Rodney from Kansas City, Missouri. Got some good barbecue there. I appreciate that. All right, so let's get into this. Aaron, you know what? Matter of fact, Aaron, if you're still here, when we get past the lesson, ask that question again, but give me some detail as to, if you don't mind, what the situation is. And then I can give you more detail on how to handle it. Okay, so let's get started with the lesson today. We are in Numbers 18 and 19. So the Lord said to Aaron, you, your sons, and your family are to bear the responsibility for offenses connected to the sanctuary. And you and your sons alone are to bear the responsibility for the offenses connected to the priesthood. Bring your fellow Levites from your ancestral tribes to join you and assist you when you and your sons minister before the tent of the covenant law. They are to be responsible for you, and you are to perform all the duties of the tent. But they must not go near the furnishings of the sanctuary or the altar. Otherwise, both they and you will die. They will join you and be responsible for the care of the tent of meetings, all the work at the tent, and no one else may come near where you are. Now, this is one of the first times, Grand Rising Michael, this is one of the first times that this deity in this book, since Exodus really, that he is literally talking to Aaron instead of talking to Moses. We know most of the time these conversations were held with just Moses, but now Aaron is getting him some FaceTime. But in that FaceTime, what he gets is threats. That if anybody, the Levites are the ones who were separated from during the census that we did much earlier in the book, and they were separated in order to fulfill the duties of maintaining the tent of meetings and doing all the sacrifices and so on and so forth. Now, Aaron and his sons are the only ones who can actually do it, because perpetually they are supposed to be the ones who continuously do this forever. As of right now, there are only about 500 people who they claim to be still in that priest line of Aaron. So they are the only ones who can do these sacrifices. Grand Rising Mike. Anybody else who approaches, other Levites can help to a certain degree, but if they approach the altar or participate in the sacrifices, then this God is saying, I'm going to kill them and I'm going to kill you. So they got to make sure, they got to have guard duty to make sure that none of these people ever do anything towards the sanctuary or the altar here in this book. To continue, you are to be responsible for the care of the sanctuary and the altar, so that my wrath will not fall on the Israelites again. I myself have selected your fellow Israelites from the Israelites as a gift to you. So the Levites are a gift to Aaron and his sons, like work slaves. But here it is by threat that this deity is desiring worship. And as we discussed many times before, if a deity has to threaten you to gain your affection, your love, your obedience, then that deity is moved by anger and wrath. And if something outside of itself can force it to do something, then it is not the God, because it is through fear that you are to worship this God. Say, I myself selected your fellow Levites from among the Israelites as a gift to you, dedicated to the Lord, to do the work of the tent of meetings. But only you and your sons may serve as priests in connection with everything at the altar and inside the curtain. I am giving you the service of the priesthood as a gift. anyone else who comes near the sanctuary is to be put to death. Now, I want you to think about how this contradicts the New Testament, whereas anybody can become a priest, anybody can become a pastor, that the Gentiles were grafted in, which completely contradicts the idea of the Old Testament, where it talks about the fact that only those through the line of Aaron can ever be priest. So anybody else is going to die. So if the Old Testament is correct and is to be followed, then why aren't all these pastors and priests and evangelists dying the moment that they touched an altar? It would seem not to be so, right? They're not dying. They're still alive. Brought two Java. The one you got two the Java lattes are also good. Not as good as the Tabak to me, but they are good. Java has a lot of good ones though. The Java Maduro might be strong for you. It's strong for you, but it's a chocolate cigar. See how I'm getting Dwayne? I'm getting him in there. I'm getting him in there. I'm telling you, by this time next year, I'm gonna have Dwayne smoking some of my kind of cigars, the real ones. Quit trying to distract me. So these other pastors and priests should all be perishing and dying, because these laws, these rules are supposed to be perpetual. All for always. I got this heater on a little too high. Turn it down a little bit. It's getting hot up in this joint. Ooh, and it's loud. Didn't realize how loud it was. So we know from previous chapters that that's how it's supposed to be. So is that a contradiction? The chocolate is my next move. Just make sure you eat something before you smoke that one. It is a Maduro. But how can these things be perpetual and yet they're not done today? And the threats of this God did not happen. That would be something that you can always bring to bear when somebody says that this is the inerrant word of God. It's not supposed to change. This God is not supposed to change. What if those things were perpetual? What happened? It all changed. Then the Lord said to Aaron, I myself have put you in charge of the offerings presented to me. All of the holy offerings and all of the holy offerings the Israelites give me, I give to you and your sons as your portion, your perpetual share. You are to have the part of the most holy offering that is kept from the fire. From all the gifts they bring me as most holy offerings, whether grain or sin or guilt offerings, that part belongs to you and your sons. Eat it as something most holy. Every male shall eat it. You must regard it as holy. So and they're going to talk about later how every other Israelite is supposed to receive an inheritance, but the Levite tribes are not receiving an inheritance. So all the offerings that are given to this deity is supposed to be, a portion of it is given to Aaron and his sons and the other Levites. So it's kind of like their tithes, and it's going to actually literally say tithes somewhere in here, but this is their portion. But it says that only every male shall eat it. And you're going to get into how it disproportionately gives a little bit to the daughters. So keep in mind, they're only getting a portion of the sacrifice, that part that wasn't touched by fire. We're going to get into the female part right now. This also is yours. Whatever is set aside from the gifts of all the wave offerings of the Israelites, I give this to you and your sons and daughters as your perpetual share. Everyone in your household who is ceremonially clean may eat it. Now, ceremonially clean is referencing more towards the things that makes you ceremonially unclean, which is like to touch a dead body, makes you ceremonially unclean, right? It makes you unclean, but you also ceremonially unclean. Other things that could just make you unclean doesn't make you ceremonially unclean, just certain things like touching a dead body. Now in this one, he said, every male shall eat it. But now he's saying, I'm giving it to your sons and daughters. So we ain't got to the part about the daughters that I read about earlier. So we're gonna get there. I give you all the finest oil and all the finest wine, finest new wine and grain they gave to the Lord. Why does this God need wine? They gave to the Lord, and his first fruits of their harvest. All the land's first fruit they bring to the Lord will be yours. Everyone in your household who is ceremonially clean may eat it. Everything in Israel is to be devoted to the Lord. Everything in Israel that is devoted to the Lord is yours. The first offerings of every womb. We're going to pay attention to this part. Grand Rising Yoshi. Grand Rising Jeffrey. This is off topic. I left the church nearly 15 years ago. I see and believe that their Bible is wrong. I still fear what I am. What if I am wrong? How do you get through this? Ooh, that's a big question. Yes, it's off topic. But you gotta wait. That means you gotta wait. Give me an hour. Give me an hour or less. And we'll get to that one. All right. Because actually, after I finish this book that I'm currently writing, the next book that I'm going to write is going to deal with that very thing. That's part of what it's going to deal with. All right. So remind me, Jeffrey. That's two reminders. Clean, you find all you may eat it. All right, everything that is devoted to you is yours, Lord. Okay, yeah. Now the first offering of every womb, both human and animal, that is offered to the Lord is yours. But you must redeem every firstborn son and every firstborn male of unclean animals. When they are a month old, you must redeem them at the redemption price, set at 5 shekels of silver, according to the sanctuary shekel, which weighs 20 gerahs. Now, you gotta understand the culture of the people at this time frame to really grasp what's being said here. Many people like to believe that there was a god named Molech, but there wasn't a god named Molech. A Molech is a child sacrifice. So it's not a god. You can do a Molech to any god. But many people have been misunderstood, many earlier scholars thought that Molech was a god. But we've come to realize through archaeological research that this was actually a type of sacrifice, which is a child sacrifice. Now, in this one, we have found that there are ancient Israelite temples that show that they participated in the Molech, in a child sacrifice. What he's saying right here is that every firstborn of every womb, both human and animal, that is offered to the Lord is yours. But you must redeem every firstborn son, every firstborn male, and the price is 5 shekels of silver. So if you were poor, the reason why you will find that there are some who still had to sacrifice their firstborn sons is because they didn't have the 5 shekels. So if you were poor and you couldn't offer the 5 shekels, you had to commit your child to a Molech because the child was not able to be redeemed. Jeremiah, Grand Rising, instead of putting down the scripture, I need you to just say what it says. If it's in response to what we're reading right now. If it has nothing to do with what we're reading, then save that for an hour from now. So these people still participated in child sacrifice, but they had a way of redeeming a child if you had 5 shekels. But if you didn't, too bad to that child. Now, you also had to do this for every unclean animal. So we also see that in ancient Israelite time frame prior to Hezekiah, that the northern kingdom of Israel, that they also did things like pig husbandry. And of course, the pig is considered an unclean animal. So in order to redeem your pigs and be able to keep them, you had to offer the 5 shekels. Now, I don't know. And that was considered a low-level job to have pigs. But if you are, so a pig, I think when a pig has babies, they can have quite a few of them. So when they have their babies, if it had 10 pigs, 10 piglets, then you had to offer 5 shekels per piglet, which that's quite a sum of money in order for you to continue to do your work as a pig farmer. Grand Rising Thomas. Dumb stuff men did and still do, yes. Okay. Jeremiah, if that's what those things say, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. As someone who gave up Christianity 25 years ago, or 25 or so years ago, and someone who has studied quite a religion, and one of the major, oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to put these things up here when I'm reading them, right? So that y'all can read it too, no matter what platform you're on. I've learned it's more about your personal relationship with your God, regardless of which one it is. It is still, if you still follow Jesus, you can still have a relationship. The church is a corporation design. Okay, let's stay where we at for right now, Yoshi. Let's stay on this subject, and then we can get into the other stuff. Okay. Y'all be trying to distract me. I know what y'all trying to do. All right. So, where was I? The Lord Aaron and your whatever perpetual. What the hell? Oh yeah. Verse 17 is where we are now. Now here's the difference. Okay, you're supposed to, so that you don't forget. No, it's fine. I know when we get to these, I want to answer everybody's questions and definitely recognize everybody, but we got to do the lesson part first. Grand Rising Trauma. 17. Verse 17. Let me scroll down a little bit. But you must not redeem the firstborn of a cow, sheep, or goat. They are holy. Splash their blood against the altar and burn their fat as a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. These things kill me with all the aromas pleasing to the Lord. Grand Rising Texas Goddess. Their meat is to be yours, just as the breast of the wave offering and the right thigh are yours. Whatever is set aside from the holy offering the Israelites present to the Lord, I will give you and your sons and your daughters as a perpetual share. It is an everlasting covenant of salt before the Lord, for both you and your offerings. So if you are a clean animal, and you are a cow, sheep, or goat, then you every firstborn of that animal, the firstborn of that animal must be sacrificed for the Lord. And then that portions are given to Aaron and his sons. So that way they are basically getting from the poor, getting from everybody. But the sad part about it is that they're taking also from the poor. So if you were poor and you had like 5 goats and 2 or 3 are female, and they're firstborn, you don't get to keep that firstborn. You got to sacrifice that one, keeping you a little bit poor longer than you should before those goats can then have more babies, and then you can grow your herd. But then when those goats have the secondborn have babies, you got to give the first one again. So it's a slow way of keeping you poor, of stymieing your ability to grow your flocks, because you got to keep providing for Aaron and his sons and daughters and all of them. It's kind of jacked up, The Lord said to Aaron, you will have no inheritance in their land, nor will you have any share among them. I am your share and your inheritance among the Israelites. So this is one of the reasons why pastors will say that the church is supposed to provide for them, that they're supposed to be taken care of by the church. But we know how that has went, in the fact that many of these pastors have taken advantage of people and they have built their wealth based on the backs of poor people. And they continue to use scriptures like these, or the idea of a scripture like this, because they're not going to preach about these animal sacrifices too tough in their churches, but they'll use these types of passages in order to keep the people giving up all of their stuff to them, or at least the first parts of their things to them. I will give to the Levites all the tithes in Israel as their inheritance. Now, mind you, there's like a hefty number of Levites at this time frame, right? What a refreshing new live stream time. Only because my day got jacked up and I had to run errands today. So this is a tithe. Now, it doesn't say a tenth. It just says a portion. It doesn't give an exact amount. But basically, when you look at the cow, the sheep, and all that kind of stuff, it tells you that you're getting the breast and you're getting certain parts of the meat. So you know what parts you're getting, and you're getting the best parts of the animal that you don't burn, for them to be able to give that to the Levites. And we're talking a good hefty number. I forgot what the number of Levites were at the census that they had did a couple of books ago. Grand Rising, John. So no matter what your financial status is, you have to take care of these priests and give to these priests, because they have been decided that they're going to be the ones that takes care of the tent of meetings and all that. It's a bunch of nepotism, really. It's nepotism. From now on, the Israelites must not go near the tent of meetings, or they will bear the consequences of their sin and will die. It is the Levites who are to do the work at the tent of meetings and bear the responsibilities for any offenses they commit against it. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. They will receive no inheritance among the Israelites. Instead, I give to the Levites as their inheritance the tithes that the Israelites present as an offering to the Lord. This is why I say concerning them, they will have no inheritance among the Israelites. So if you sin, the Levites win, basically. They want you to keep sinning. And you got to think about it. They got the grain, they got the sin offering, they got the redemption offerings, they got the guilt offerings, they got the just regular offerings, and they got the grain offerings. They got a ton of offerings that they have to continuously be giving to this deity who likes this sweet aroma of burning flesh. And then a portion of that goes to the Levites, effectively making the Levites wealthy in a sense. So when this gets bartered over, and remember, every time you have a child or it's an unclean animal, you also have to give 5 shekels of silver. So it's not that they're just getting food, but they're also getting money. So when people say that the tithe is only food, they're actually incorrect. According to this book, the tithe is also your money. So they are taking, but it's the money in exchange for the redemption of unclean animals and the redemptions of your children. So imagine if you have a church. In today's church, every time someone has a baby for the first time, they have to pay the priest, the church, the priest. It's not even paying the church, you're paying the priest 5 shekels of silver. And I'm curious, what is today's value of 5 shekels of silver? How much is a silver shekel worth in dollars? Oh, it's not worth that much. So 20 shekels will be about $200 today. So you divide that by 4 and you get 50. So every time you have a baby, you got to pay $50. So it's not a lot, but still it's $50. It's money I got to give to the priesthood for the fact that I had a baby, or you got something new. I still don't like it. So to continue, where were we? Yeah, I give the Levites and no inheritance money. The Lord said to Moses, so now he's going to talk to Moses. Speak to the Levites and say to them, when you receive from the Israelites the tithe, I give you as your inheritance, you must present a tenth of that tithe to the Lord's offering. So who's have to give a tenth? Is it the people or is it the priest? But it is the priest who has to give a tenth. And again, this is supposed to be perpetual, a lasting ordinance. Your offerings will be reckoned to you as grain for the threshold or the juice from the winepress. In this way, you also will present an offering to the Lord from all the tithes you receive from the Israelites. From these tithes, you must give the Lord's portion to Aaron and the priest. So he's telling Moses that Moses is going to get a tenth, and then from Moses' tenth, he's supposed to give a portion to Aaron and the priest. You must present as the Lord's portion the best and the holiest parts of everything given to you. So we are doing some serious money changing here, some changing of property. Say to the Levites, when you present the best part, it will be reckoned to you as the product of the threshing floor or the winepress. You and your household may eat the rest of it anywhere, for it is your wages for your work at the tent of meetings. By presenting the best parts of it, you will not be guilty in this matter. Then you will not defile the holy offerings of the Israelites, and you will not die. Why does he have to end the chapter with a threat? If you don't do this, I'm going to kill y'all. That is a sad statement of this deity, that he has to end things with a threat. Now, he's already made all these, in this chapter, he made all these things about how they have to make sure that they give portions and a tenth to Moses and the best portions of the animals to the Aaron and his sons, that the men are supposed to eat, and then the daughters are supposed to eat a portion of that. So they're getting a smaller portion than the men are getting, which shows that the daughters are not that important because they have to be mentioned later. But this is their perpetual share. This is what they're supposed to get. And then they're supposed to get some money out of you. Every time a firstborn animal, or a firstborn of the unclean animals, and the firstborn of your body, of a person, is supposed to give a fifth of a shekel. Now, if we were still an agrarian, think about if you were a Texas Ranger. You had to give $50 when your child is born, but every firstborn of every unclean animal, you got to give another $50. Them $50 add up. They can add up big time. Thereby increasing the wealth of the priesthood. So that was 18. So we killing animals because people can't act right. And this blood, this is why I say over and over again, this is a blood cult, right? Because they have to keep killing people. Albert said, were they eating the children? On Facebook, Albert said, were they eating the children? That was one of the curses that they put on the people, that this God put on these people, saying that if they disobey him, they're gonna wind up eating their own children. And it did come to a time frame in Hezekiah where the people were eating their own children. And there's a story about a woman who made a deal with another woman that they would eat her baby today and then eat her baby tomorrow, but then she didn't want to. They ate her baby. Then when the next day they were supposed to eat the other lady's baby who came up with the idea, the lady didn't want to do it. So when they went to Hezekiah, they didn't go to him to say, oh, this is a messed up thing. But the lady was like, make her boil her baby so we can eat her baby. Oh, you meant the gods? No. The way that these guys supposedly eat the baby is through the burning of the flesh and the aroma and the ashes going up. That's how they thought the gods consumed anything, whether it's the animals or the babies. But yeah, they did have animal sacrifices. They did have baby sacrifices, infant sacrifices. That's called the Molech. So we're going to continue in chapter 19. So you can get through this pretty easily today, pretty quickly in chapter 19. So then we can get to some of these questions. Because it's basically a lot of stuff that is said already, so it's very repetitive. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, so they ain't talking both of them. Uh, this is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect or blemish that has never been under a yoke. Give it to Eleazar, the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Then Eleazar, the priest, is to take some of his blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the front of the tent of meetings. While he watches, the heifer is to be burned. Its hide, flesh, bone, and intestine. The priest is to take some cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool, and throw them onto the burning heifer. After that, the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He may then come into the camp, but he will be ceremonially unclean till evening. The man who burns it must also wash his clothes and bathe with water. He too is unclean until evening. I want to read this whole part about this heifer before we go deep into it. A man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and put them in a ceremonially clean place outside the camp. They are to be kept by the Israelite community for use in the water of cleansing. It is for purification from sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he too will be unclean till evening. This will be a lasting ordinance both for the Israelites and for the foreigners residing among you. Let me stop right there. Isn't this why they still sacrifice a lamb goat to this day? Yeah, they still sacrifice these animals. Technically, they're not there. So you got some who say they can't sacrifice animals until the temple is rebuilt, that they can't have their atonement sacrifices. But let me stop for a second. Dorinda, you're only the second person I've ever met named Dorinda. I appreciate your dedication and knowledge. I realize how much I've been blinded from the truth. I'm studying well and unveiling the bitterness. Good. I love when people study for themselves. This is actually incorrect, Jeremiah. Many different cultures sacrificed babies and ate them. So it wasn't a sacrifice of watermelon. They weren't sacrificing watermelon. So this red heifer is more important than people realize it. And there is a lot of controversy concerning the implications here of the red heifer. Now, for one, a red heifer is not a normal occurrence. It is a very rare thing to find to breed out a red heifer. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. The Jewish people today who are still looking for a Messiah believe that the coming of that Messiah will be signified by a red heifer. And this red heifer must fit the criteria. It has to be a red heifer. It has to have never worked, and it has to be younger than 3 years old. They are preparing to this day, ever since 1967, the Jewish people who took over Israel have been preparing the bloodline of who they have determined is the bloodline of Aaron, to preparing them to sacrifice this red heifer. And the Messiah, according to this sect of the Zionists, the Messiah is supposed to stand on the rooftop of a building, of the temple actually, and sacrifice this red heifer, and let the people know it's time for them to humble themselves, because their Messiah, which is going to lead them into this new kingdom, has finally came. there are actually Zionist ranchers in Texas who have been trying to breed a cow. Yes, a heifer is a cow, female cow, who have been trying to breed a red heifer so that they can ship it to Israel. Because when they get this red heifer, they believe that they will then be able to get rid of the Dome of the Rock and rebuild in the third temple and build the third temple, right? So this is a real thing that these people believe. Now, some Christian sects have said that Jesus was the representation of this red heifer, but it doesn't quite fit. Jesus was not sacrificed younger than 3 years old. Jesus worked as a carpenter according to their story. So he worked. He was under the yoke of work. So he would, and Jesus do. He's not a female. So Jesus wouldn't be the red heifer, though they have tried to claim that Jesus was the red heifer, right? Did they find one really in Israel? They have claimed that's what made me start this one a little bit late, because I was re-looking at some of the research about the red heifer. I think it was in the 90s. And then in 2002 was the last time that they said, oh, we got a red heifer. But then they found out that it didn't fit all the criteria. Under 3 years old, never under a yoke and work before. So it didn't necessarily qualify. But they have tried to claim this red heifer a couple of times in our more recent history. But yeah, they've tried it. So that's an interesting thing that I found concerning this red heifer. Most of the time when I read this, I didn't think too much about this red heifer. It was just, okay, another thing. But then when I was talking to a guy some years ago, and I had brought this up, and he was like, how rare it is to have a red heifer. And then it made me go back to this and do more research on it as to what it means to these people. But they literally believe that this will be a sign of their Messiah coming when this red heifer is there, and that they'll be able to take over the Dome of the Rock. The way Israel has been operating here recently, I would not be surprised if they accidentally blow up the Dome of the Rock. But I don't think they would. That would start a whole nother kind of World War III if they did that. But now, once these priests have done and touched this red heifer and burned it and did all their things, they are ceremonially unclean. So they have to then cleanse themselves so that they can go back into the tent. Verse 11, whosoever touches a human corpse will be unclean for 7 days. It's funny they're saying this. They've already said this a bunch of times in this. They're trying to pad the runtime. They're trying to pad the runtime. But it can't be a Red Bull, Jeremiah. And on Facebook, Jeremiah said a Red Bull comes from the mixing of these two breeds. It can't be a Red Bull. It has to be a red heifer. Okay, so they must purify themselves with the water on the third day and on the seventh day, and they will be clean. But if they do not purify themselves on the third and the seventh days, they will not be clean. If they fail to purify themselves after touching a human corpse, they defile the Lord's tabernacle. They must be cut off from Israel. Because the water of cleansing has not been sprinkled on them, they are unclean, and their uncleanliness remains on them. Padding shit out this runtime. This is the law that applies when a person dies in a tent. Anyone who enters the tent or anyone who is in it will be unclean for 7 days. And every open container without a lid fastened on it will be unclean. So you walk in, you find somebody dead, everybody unclean, everything that doesn't have a cover over it is unclean. Anyone out in the open who touches someone who has been killed with a sword, or someone who has died of a natural death, or anyone who touches a human bone or a grave will be unclean for 7 days. Now, these people are genociding people, they're killing people. So all these people who are removing the bodies and dealing with the dead people, they're unclean. For the unclean person must put some ashes from the burnt purification offering into a jar and pour fresh water over them. Then a man who is ceremonially clean is to take some hyssop, dip it in the water, and sprinkle the tent and all the furnishings and the people who were there. He must also sprinkle anyone who has touched a human bone and or a grave, or anyone who has been killed, or anyone who has died a natural death. The man who is clean is to sprinkle those on those who are unclean on the 3rd and 7th days. And on the 7th day, he is to be pure. He is to purify them. Those who are being clean must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and that evening they will be clean. But if those who are unclean do not purify themselves, they must be cut off from the community, because they have defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. The water of the cleansing has not been sprinkled on them. The water of the cleansing has not been sprinkled on them. They are unclean. This is a lasting ordinance for them. The man who sprinkles the water of the cleansing must also wash his clothes, and anyone who touches the water of cleansing will be unclean till evening. Anything that an unclean person touches becomes unclean, and anyone who touches it becomes unclean till evening. There's a lot of things to be unclean, all the cups of cooties. But I want you to think about this for a second. All right. One, if all these people are unclean, they have to give all types of sacrifices in order to cleanse themselves and do all these different sacrifices first to get these burnt ashes in order for them to cleanse themselves. And remember, if you're giving all these you're doing all these sacrifices, these offerings, that the line of Aaron and Moses are getting a piece of this. They're getting a part. They loan shark in this thing. They the mafia. They're getting they vig for it. So this is enriching Moses and Aaron and the Levites every time something like this happens. But the most important thing that I want us to hear on this one is Christians often like to claim that if a person is burning sage to cleanse the energy of their room or their house or themselves, if they are making potions by adding elements to water and all this kind of stuff and drinking it or splashing themselves with it or whatever you're doing in your rituals for cleansing your energy, cleansing your house or anything around you, they will say that what you are doing is witchcraft. But what the hell they just did with some ashes, some water, and some hyssop? It's the same thing. Is it not witchcraft? I mean, y'all tell me if I'm wrong. Is it not witchcraft? The only reason they wouldn't call it witchcraft is because they're doing it for their God. But if you're doing it for your God, is not what you're doing just as ritualistic as theirs, and therefore what they do then is witchcraft. Because this is Christian, or in this case, Hebrew is, witchcraft. Israelite, this is what they call themselves Israelite at this time frame. This is Israelite witchcraft. Honey Hogan said that's right. That's what she always thought. Renee agrees. Such hypocrites. Exactly. Yes, Catholics do this. They have their Ash Wednesdays right before Easter. They have the incense going back and forth through the sanctuary. All these things are witchcraft in how they describe witchcraft. If I'm talking to a person and we're not debating things like that, I would just say they're doing their spiritual work. It's just their spiritual work. It's however they get themselves in a spiritual mindset. He said witchcraft or hoodoo, same thing. When I've been around people who practice Ifa, who practice hoodoo, they do the same. It's the same type stuff. It's supposed to have the same meanings. So there is no difference. Everybody has some type of mysticism in their work. Didn't the wise men give Jesus frankincense and myrrh? Yes, and frankincense and myrrh were believed to have, especially myrrh is believed to have healing properties. Most Christians will focus on the value of frankincense and myrrh, and that's why he gave it to them. But the reality of it is, the incense of frankincense was used for ritualistic purposes, and then myrrh was also for rituals, but was also for healing. All right. She said Catholics are the biggest hypocrite. I think all of them are. I think they all are. And it's a lack of respect for what anybody else is doing, and you're going to focus on what you're doing as something good because they believe they're doing their thing for their God, and their God is the only God and the right God. So therefore, they are the only ones who are correct in what they're doing. Is the noise from this heater bothering y'all? Because I'd rather use this heater. Because I turn the heat up on this house. It's take too long for this house to get warmed up. It's too much space. All right. It is like selfish children. Okay, good. Maybe some cinnamon. I'm of the mind that connection with the earth and natural, aka witchcraft, can be a good thing, even on a psychological level. Yes, I agree. The only time I ever do anything that's ritualistic like that, it is because maybe my mental energies are not strong right now, and so I need to remind myself and get myself. It's kind of like when you get ready for a game, you got to get worked up for it. So it's like I might go and draw a circle with some chalk and put some sigils in it and sit in it and meditate. But I'm not doing it because I think that the sigils or the circle is giving me some power. It's just reminding me of my own power, my connection with the earth and the universe. And so it's really all about me, and just as a reminder, just like I wear this as a reminder. I wear this as a reminder. Also, I like the way this look too. It looks good. It matches most of the stuff I wear. So it's just reminders of my own powers as my connection with my connection to the universe and to all things, and connecting with all frequencies, or the frequency that I'm looking to connect with. And that's it. That's it. Thank you, Renee. Renee said she loved the jewelry. I know. I got so much more, but I keep breaking them. I got to get a couple of them fixed. What was your question, Jeffrey? And somebody else had another question. There was two people who had a question that was off topic. But that was that reading. If you guys got any other thoughts on that reading, let me know what your thoughts are. I think it just shows that this is a blood cult, that animal cruelty, that they believe that by sacrificing some animal is supposed to absolve you from actions that you have taken, and that this deity, well, it's not even a deity. I think the priesthood wrote in a whole bunch of different things to enrich themselves as well as to keep control over the people. I mean, it's like these Israelites, people can't do nothing without incurring the wrath of this deity. And then the wrath is, you come near the altar, I'm gonna kill you, but pastors are at the altar all the time and none of them are dying. People approach the altar all the time, none of them are dying. And of course they would say they're saved by the blood of Jesus. That sacrifice, if they actually understand what this sacrifice of Jesus means, it means it's kind of like Horus, whereas at the end, when you're standing before judgment, Heru then takes on your sins that you weren't able to absolve before you died. But you're supposed to consistently absolve yourself of these sins. That's why the Old Testament says this is a lasting ordinance. This is supposed to be done perpetually throughout the generations, because they were not supposed to stop doing this, which shows that this is a culturally based book, because we know in our culture today, if they were sacrificing animals like this at some temple, that the government will be all over their assets. But what do you guys think? All right. Is this what you were talking about earlier? I have left the church 15 years ago, but still fear creeps in. What if I'm wrong? How do I get this out of my brain? All right. So I just decided today that after I finish this relationship book that I'm writing, that the next book that I'm going to write will be a guide on how to leave religion. And one of the biggest issues is the fact that you're going to still have this feeling, this thought process is going to come in your mind over and over again. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Part of it is walk yourself through logical question and answer. You left Christianity. What if you're wrong? You go to Christian hell. What if the Muslims are right? And you've never worshiped Allah, then you're going to go to Islamic hell, right? What if the Hindu are right? Then you're going to reincarnate and have to come back at a lower caste and suffer through this life until you elevate yourself to the Brahmin stage, and then you can go and be in their heaven, right? The only reason you still feel connected to that particular religion is because that's the one you grew up in. So that's one logical thought process of going through that. Every time you have that feeling, that thought process, think about it. Well, you could be wrong with a bunch of religions. So does that make any of them right? And then study those religions and see, okay, is this religion right, period? If you can establish that this religion is not right, period, then you can establish that there is no hell. And come to the realization that cause and effect has created every negative thing in your life, whether you were the causation or someone else was the causation. Everything negative in your life happened either because of you or somebody else. And that happened because of the negative thoughts that they have in their brain that comes out into negative words and negative actions. So when you understand cause and effect and you become the causational factor in your life, you start to not have those thoughts. You start getting past that fear. And as you work on opening your chakras, is the framework I'm going to use. That first base chakra is fear. Fear, I don't like the false evidence appearing real thing. I do like the forget everything and run, or face everything in and respond. Fear is illusionary. It's not real. It's not something that's you're fearing something that hasn't even happened yet, and that there is no evidence that it is going to happen. If you had evidence of something that was going to happen, then you would know how to avoid that very thing, right? So if you are in a state where you fear that you're going to be one of those senior citizens who's poor and eating cat food, and you're in your 30s or your 40s, then look at your finances now and start making change. Be the causation of setting yourself up for retirement. Then that fear wasn't real. I mean, it had evidence that it could be real if you continue in your same format. But the moment you start changing how you utilize your finances, that reality doesn't become your reality. You've changed it. So is there any proof of hell? This hell that the Christians talk about? No, there's no proof of it whatsoever. So since there's no proof of it, there is nothing to avoid. So then just live your life, raising your vibration in every aspect of life, and you will realize that there is no hell for you to go to. There is only hell for you to make here on earth for yourself, but you can also make the same heaven on earth for yourself. That's like the short way of. Now, of course, it would require spending a lot of time with you and dealing with you individually in order to truly break it down deeper than that to your own individual things. Hence, shameless plug, hence why we have coachrenz.com for coaching programs. But I am going to write that book, but the book will also be generalized and will have some specifics, but you really have to delve into your own psyche to remove those things out. Let's see. I hope that answers your question. I always thought it was funny as a child when I had questions about the Bible and I was told not to ask God questions or I would go to hell, right? It's a fear tactic. And there's also a thing of don't ask questions that I can't answer because I feel uncomfortable trying to answer those questions because I don't know. You know, parents and adults have this issue with just saying, I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, nobody knows what happens after you die of this body. Nobody really knows. Ain't nobody been there and came back. But yeah, it's how the church they get in your head and constantly want to make you feel that way, because if they can control your feelings, and that's one of the things. Yeah, let me add that to it. One of the ways to overcome that challenge is learn how to control your feelings. Controlling your emotions is very vital towards you raising your vibration, because your emotions, although are good and bad, your emotion can either raise you up or they can put you down, right? You make it, if you make an emotional decision based on fear or anxiety or guilt or shame, then you're making a bad decision. You're going to have more problems than you're going to have solutions. But when you're making a decision, confidence and love and understanding and wisdom, then you generally move into a higher conscious state, because they usually will work out better for you. The only time they don't is when somebody with a stronger will that's going against you, their causation messes up your causations. Grand Rising Curious. Yep. The Kabbalion is a great book. Cause and Effect. That was Curious on YouTube said that. Interesting. That's what I was thinking. Is when is what we grew up in and around. My parents were divided in their beliefs, so I always had religious questions. I disagree with much of both. Yeah, because if you grew up in Saudi Arabia, you would be question. Your fear would be going to Islamic hell if you had walked away from Islam. But it is definitely something that's just in your head. You created. It's your own mindset. They say that hell is repetition, the more repetitive than a human life. In wait, I'm reading that. What's more repetitive than a human in a cycle of bad choices and guilt? Yeah, there are aspects of my life that I keep seeing churning over and over again. Some, not most of them are good, but some are not so good. And I recognize that the not so good ones were because even though the situation looks different, my response, well, it's not even a response, my reactions to those situations have been similar enough to get me the same results. So I had to step back from those situations and say, okay, if this is how I made these decisions to do X, Y, and Z, let me stop and make a different decision, because I keep getting the same shit. It looked different, but it's still the same thing. Yep. It's like PTSD. If you work on yourself, it will change your core beliefs, and that's the thing that you're working on. You're changing your core beliefs. Uh, y'all know I like some movies. What was it? Inside Out, the little animated cartoon movie where the girl her she had beings inside her head that represented certain aspects of her, and she would have certain things, whether traumatic or amazing, but they would create core memories, and those core memories dictated her personality. You have to change those core thoughts, those core beliefs, those core emotions, so that you can, because right now they're dictating your personality. The moment you change those core beliefs, core thoughts, your personality changes, your thoughts changes, your ability to you get rid of fear. I was gonna say deal with fear, but no, you get rid of fear. Yeah. And trust me, I was, even though I walked away at 27 and around 27, I still dealt with that same emotion. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? You know, and I dealt with that for a good 10, 11 years. before I can solidly say, ain't no hell. Like, I could not, in those first 10 years, if you was trying to get me to say, fuck Jesus, I could not bring myself to say it. I couldn't. And not like I would never walk into a church or, go to just walk up to a Christian and say that. But like in the privacy of my own home, or if I'm just talking to other people who've walked away, I couldn't say it. I couldn't throw away a Bible, or anything like that, because I still had this little bit of inside of me. So it took probably a good about 10 years before I could be like, fuck Jesus, fuck Yahweh, Jehovah, who gives a shit about any of them, before I could take a Bible and throw it away. I literally ceremonially to myself burned every Bible that I had back when I was in my mid to late 30s. And I'm gonna tell you, even when I was burning, I had a little bit of anxiety jumped up. And I'm not gonna lie, a little bit of anxiety jumped up. But then it started going away, and I started meditating on it, started thinking about it, and I started realizing it. And then if something did go wrong in my life, I didn't say, oh shit, is it because I burnt that Bible? Is it because no. I can look at, no, it's because I make this dumbass decision right here. This business, the popcorn shop didn't work in this location. Well, shit, I had told a franchisee not to open up in a mall because I knew that malls are not a good place for that business. And yet here my dumb ass go opening up one in the mall. Of course that's not going to work in the mall. I already knew it wouldn't work. It had nothing to do with me burning the Bible or anything like that. It had something to do with me going against my better judgment. I like this one that Dwayne said. What helped me was knowing that I don't have to fight God's battles. If he's so powerful, let him speak for himself. Exactly. If this deity is so powerful, show you. Come on, right here, right now. Show up. If you so powerful, where you at? You show up right here, right now. You got all of us. You got all of us. Still got a bunch of questions though. Like this shit got to be wrong. You got to correct all this book because this book is fucked. This is watched that yesterday with your daughter. Oh yeah, I love that movie. I always say, if God is love, what is there to fear? God doesn't need me to tell it that it's great. It wouldn't be so narcissistic, right? It's like, you ever met that person? They're beautiful, right? Beautiful, good looking, fine. But they constantly need you to remind them and tell them that. Like, are you serious? I tell you at least once a day that you're beautiful. Why I gotta tell you 5 times a day? Why should I even have to tell you every day? If I tell you that you're beautiful every day, it kind of loses its flavor. I don't even like saying I love you every day, because if I say it every day, then it loses something. It becomes as bland as saying good morning. No, let me say it when there's a moment to say it that it impacts you. Now, this dude, he wants you to sacrifice and shit all the time, doing this all the time. Mm-mm. I just keep saying, hell, Satan, bitch. But that Fonzo said, you should show them Galatians. Man, what is Galatians 4? What does it say? Is that the one about Abraham them being a metaphor, an allegory? Oh, it tells that. Oh, wait, I meant to hit this one. It tells you that the Bible is an allegory. Actually, I think I don't think it's actually saying that the whole thing is an allegory. I think that what Paul was trying to get across to people, since so many hundreds of years have passed by, and that their culture was different, is that they should take those stories now to be allegory. But they literally, even in Paul's so-called time, they believe that those things actually happened. Like they believe that the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds split, that this God was showing up in clouds of smoke and all that kind of thing. Grand Rising in Lamont. Who introduced you to Jeebus? My mother, grandmother, my family. If you say I love you all the time, it just becomes another useless word. It does. And that's the thing. Actions speak louder than words. Like if you can't see my love through my actions, it ain't gonna work. You're gonna be mad. I mean, granted, I'm gonna say it, but if you don't see it in my actions, what does it mean? It doesn't mean nothing to me. Like I will say that to, I say that to, I'll tell Angela in heartbeat, you can say it, but if I don't see it, it ain't gonna work. And this is how I receive it. I receive it this way, and this way. If I don't see that, I don't want to hear your words. Your words don't mean nothing. I remember there was one relationship that I was ending, and the woman was saying that how much she loved me. And I kept telling myself, but over these years, I have constantly and consistently told you, this is what I need. This is how I feel loved. Yet you keep doing or not doing, you keep not doing the things that I'm telling you. And then I told you the things that will push me away, and you keep doing the things that will push me away. So in fact, you don't love me. You love the idea of me. You love being around me. You love the thought of me, the having a body here. But me, you do not love. You might care about my well-being. That's about it. But you don't love me. Right? And they were pissed. But I was like, no, that's just the truth. And I told them, myself, hopefully in your next relationship, you will realize that. And when that person tells you what makes them feel loved and what makes them not feel loved, you will not do the things that push them away, and you will do the things that brings them closer. You say you like my videos, but the lives are way better. I'm glad. Oh, boy, I have said that before too. I'm demonstrating love to you because I'm leaving you. Because if I stay with you, you're not going to be happy. Because I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to become irritable. I'm going to become, and if ladies, let me tell you something right now. If you don't understand this, you best understand this part. Even though, I have created another channel called the Art of Tantric Love on Facebook. I need y'all to go and like that channel, because that's where I'm going to only talk about relationships and sex. But relationships and sex is the only thing we talk about on that channel. So the Art of Tantric Love. Y'all know that me and Angelina started Eat, Sip, Smoke, and Travel. I need y'all to go to that channel too. And really, did you know? I need y'all to go to that channel as well. All right. But what was I about to say? Oh, about moving on. Ladies, if a man gets quiet, when we stop talking to y'all and we stop wanting to be around you, or we're in a room with you, but we don't say nothing, or we're very short. Oh, how was dinner? It was good. How was your day? It was all right. We about done with y'all. We about done. We contemplating how we're going to exit this situation. Just saying. Yeah, and sometimes this is going through a divorce. Sometimes is the best thing for two people. What? The Art of Tantric Love should we be dressed or undressed? Your ass need to be dressed away. I don't need to see no dude. Man. Nah, I've been studying Tantra since I was about 23 years old. And so that's why Tantra will play a very big part of it. I had to strip away all the religious parts of Tantra and just what Tantra just straight up is. Uh, but yeah, the art of tantric love. But go follow the travel channel as well. Eat, sip, smoke, and travel. Eat, sip, smoke, and travel. I keep lying about these. I got like 6 videos in my phone that I need to send over to that one. It's really the best thing because there's an unsolvable issue and it's gonna spiral and get worse. Yeah. If an issue is unsolvable and it's gonna continue to damage both of you, you might as well end it. There was another person who said something very earlier, but I need him to explain more if he doesn't mind. Oh, Godfrey, why did I call you Jeffrey? Is it Jeff? How do you say your name, Mr. Carlson? You're in Australia. If I'm saying Jeffrey, please correct me. Aaron, when you said your spouse says to get to church, what is the best way to change your mindset? When you're going through troubles, what troubles? What type of troubles? I need you to be more specific. Oh shit, there go Aaron right there. So dealing with the pain from the past with substance, what is a good way to detour that and start living more better? Or am I being dumb? So you're dealing with past pain issues and you're using a substance to deal with it. In truth, you need to deal with the emotion of the pain in the past, the pain from the past. Like, what emotion is it creating? Is it creating shame? Is it creating guilt? Is it creating fear? Is it why are you hurt? Because the substance is just a numbing, but you have to deal with the emotion itself. You can go to church and pray. So, Jeffrey, okay, thank you. But what is the emotion? Most women I've known only get interested in tantric love when the man can prove it works. Uh, well, Tantra is one of those things that can teach you how to send her into orbit sexually. But also, one of the other ways you can prove that it works is through tantric exercises. You can last as long as you want to last, thereby being able to give her more pleasure than she probably has ever received. So, that's some evidence like a mug right there to me. I've been through that, hit from a lot of trauma, medicated myself for years. You can only quit when you're sick of the cycle. Right. You have to hit that pain point. And that's why I was asking, what is the emotion? Because like when I'm working with somebody and we're dealing with some previous trauma, then we have to deal with that emotion. We have to deal with that trauma and dig deep into the causation of it, how it's affected you, and then what causal things we can do to change that effect. And that is through changing our mental thoughts and our focuses. And also sometimes you have to change the reality of what actually happened. Okay, okay, John, I got you. Right. Forgiveness is, and that's one of the things you have to realize. The only way is to confront yourself in a lot of forgiveness. Like for me, I was threatened with molestation, and then actually happened with one of my older cousins when I was like young. And I blamed myself for a long time. For a long time, I thought it was something that I did. And then I had to realize that I did not cause any of it. And so I had to forgive myself first for all the trauma I had caused to myself. And then I somewhat forgave them. Somewhat. They're not alive, so yeah, I ain't got to deal with them. But it was affecting how I was responding to people, period. Like, I would never say that I was homophobic because I wasn't afraid of them. I was angry with every gay person I ever saw, met, heard of. Yeah, I was severely angry, violently angry. As I got bigger and older, I was violently angry. And I had to realize that those people didn't do anything to me. It was that person. But I saw that how it was in other aspects of my life. Like I was numb, emotionally numb to people. And this is a reality. Yoshi said it took 30 some years to understand that what his aunt did to him was abuse. Yeah. How do you change thoughts so it's not easy? That's the thing. It's not easy. It requires work, a lot of work. I mean, I've been through journaling, meditating. One of the biggest things that I had to do is anytime I came into the presence of somebody who was homosexual, I literally had to work on controlling my emotions in that moment to see them as a person and not the person, not the, I had to see them as an individual person and not what I perceived my cousin. My cousin was the stereotypical, he was a stereotype of what we were told as children gay people were, that they were all looking to molest children. And so I had to separate that individual from the big group. So when I was talking to somebody who was homosexual, I had to just in my head, I'm having a conversation to them, but there's a conversation going on in my head. Like, this person never hurt me. This person never bothered me. This person hasn't shown any tendencies towards children. I can't be angry at this person. And, I'm in the midst of it, having to tell myself this thing over and over again. So I had to separate. Even dealing with racist people, I have to separate. This person has this Caucasian is not the one that swung a bat at me while I was walking down the street and almost decapitated me. They're not the ones who chased me for about a quarter mile, through woods. And I had to separate. I had to separate the individuals. But the first thing I had to do was I had to forgive myself because I blamed myself initially. And then back then, I don't know how old you are, Aaron, but back when I was coming up, back in the late 70s, this happened in the late 70s. Late 70s, early 80s. The idea was if a gay person liked you, then that meant you were gay because they got gaydar. So you had to have done something to encourage them, was like the thought process. And it was genetic. If you have gay people in your family, then you might be gay, And since this was on my father's side of the family, my mother's side of the family, the people, some of the adolescents were like, "Oh, if he like you, that must mean you gay. You got them gay people in your family. You might be gay too." So it caused me to go out, and I had to go out and have sex. I was 12 years old. I gotta have sex. Because I gotta prove to my family and to myself that I'm not gay. So I developed this weird association with sex at that time frame, which caused me to not be able to bring emotions to sex, for a very long time in my life until I got over that. I really didn't start doing any work towards that until I was about 18, 19 years old. But it's something that I had to work with self and then realize what's reality is and what's not reality. And so this is interesting. Any racist I come across, I always start my racism. My racism was created by rich people's speech. Yeah, and you can see them as they're just ignorant and don't understand that they've been controlled by other people. Yeah, they're just following what some rich people did, and those rich people don't care nothing about them. All right, we're in the free time. Any questions kind of situation right now? I have a question on your Black Egyptian short. Do you have time? Let's see. We started at 8:30. Yeah, we got time. What's your question? And you're welcome, Aaron. Grand Rising Wade. Look at Wade making it here before the end. This is definitely a true statement. Powerful men convinced poor people that the black man was after his. Exactly. Yes. I speak about them many a time. I just don't call them the Piso family. I refer to them as the Flavians. I mean, they are the Piso Flavians. But yes, we heard about them. Actually, we've done quite a few videos talking about how the Flavian dynasty created Christianity. I don't know who that is, but since Renee put it up there, Soul Crafted by Moon. He'll make you whatever you want. I don't know what you posted, Wade, but it didn't show up. Just to let you know. On SteamYard, sometimes, like even though for trauma, it posted the little things may come up. Like I don't know what the difference as to why his came up, but sometimes the emojis don't come up. Yeah, like Flavius Josephus became a member of the Flavius family after he, got pumped out in the Battle of Galilee, and then became their scribe. Have you done any talks on the Moors? Yep, we've talked about the Moors. Um, the Moors were a multicultural group of people. They weren't just all Africans or North Africans, or I mean Sub-Saharan Africans or North Africans or Nubian people. They were a mixture of different people. All of them were people of color for the most part. There were some Caucasians who were Moors. The main thing I talk about when I talk about Moors is that our history didn't start with the Moors. Our history has been around much longer than the Moors, and the Moors were not all these people claiming to be Moorish. They just don't want to accept the fact that our West African heritage is not Moorish, and they endured slavery. Yep, those episodes are out there. I got a lot of cussing out. I got cussed out by a lot of people on those videos. You don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. You just falling into the white man this and the white man that. I'm like, really, I can just say you fall into the Arab stuff, trying to claim wars. I would love to see a person who claims to be does the Moorish stuff and gets all the paperwork done and get this money that they claim. I have yet to meet one that's got this money. And then there's always a person like, well, I know somebody who got it. Now, I ain't gonna lie. If I can get a whole bunch of money just by claiming Moorish, I might consider it. Give me the money, then I'm leaving. The main thing about Josephus is he was trying to save his life because Vespasian and Titus was going to kill his ass at the Battle of Galilee, but he allowed himself to be captured and then told Vespasian that he would become the emperor of Rome because the Messiah was prophesied to come out of the Levant and be a world ruler. He was a survivalist like a champ, tricked his own people to kill him into, well, they didn't commit suicide because he killed all of them. He was supposed to commit suicide after he killed his about 40 dudes that was stuck. Was there different groups that were in control of Egypt, and the first ones were half Atlanteans? Do you agree? I'm about 70% in agreement with that. About 70% in agreement with that. So, like, according to some of the old stories of the Greeks and the Egyptians, the Kemetic people, they say that Thoth the Atlantean came after the flood of the Younger Dryas and reestablished the Kemetic and the Sumerian civilizations that had been lost from the Younger Dryas flood. So that would mean and indicate that those who inhabited North Africa and the Levant, the Mediterranean, were Atlanteans, and they did interbreed with the people, the other surviving people who were there. So that would make them part Atlantean. I'm about 70% in agreement with that. We don't have any, there's probably no way we can literally prove that unless, I mean, something has to be found. Like, you got to find Atlantis for that to happen. Yeah. Everybody's a whole big mixture of a bunch of stuff. You know, most people, especially if you're in America, or if you're a Mediterranean, if your family is Mediterranean, or and Mediterranean is all of North Africa, the Levant, the Turkish Turkish Peninsula, all the way up around through Mediterranean Europe, you are a mixture of a whole bunch of stuff. No problem, Jeffrey. You gotta go. Egypt was built by Black Africans, bro. Yeah. The Egypt that we know about was built by Black Africans. I don't disagree about that. Now, some of the things that were built prior to, they were built prior to the history of Egypt that we know of. So, like, Khufu did not build the pyramids in Giza. He did not. Those were around before Khufu. Those were around before the Younger Dryas period. But because we don't know the fullness of the civilizations that were there before the Younger Dryas, we don't exactly know who. But most likely, even those people were Black. So most likely they were still Black. We just don't know much about their society. That's what they claim. We don't necessarily have any proof of that, but that's what they claim. Homer got his stories from his uncle, and his uncle got those stories from the Egyptians. So it's very, very possible. Are you talking about the Iliad and the Odyssey, or some of his other stories? Now, I would definitely be in agreement with you. You're talking about what's his name? Pythagoras. Were any of them part of the 24 that had crowns on their head? The 24. Are you talking about the Emerald Tablets? If you talk about the Emerald Tablets, that would be the Atlanteans. But I mean, who are the 24? Just as a reminder. Lucy was supposed to be the oldest person found, and Aridated was found was millions of years older than Lucy. Both was found in Africa, and Aridated was found in Ethiopia. Well, I know Lucy is a chimpanzee. Lucy was not a human. Is not from the branch of the Homo sapiens. Lucy is a branch from the. Lucy was an ape, a chimp, to be exact. But there have been other discoveries of other Homo sapiens or pre-Homo sapiens that do fit, but Lucy was not. But both still were in Africa, so it don't matter. Yeah, they don't want that dude in Egypt does not want to admit that the Sphinx has been around for at least 26,000 years. I never remember his name, but he doesn't want to admit that. So you're saying no, not from the Emerald Tab. I don't know the 24 crowns, the 24 that wore crowns. Where is that from? If you can elaborate on that, I greatly appreciate it. We'd all appreciate it. The story of Atlantis was passed in Greek by Homer. I thought it was Plato. That was Plato, and he heard it from his grandfather. Unless I'm wrong about that. But I could swear it was Plato. And then he supposedly got the story from his grandfather. What up, Brian W? Nah, I'm just in the evening today. Tomorrow we'll be back in the morning. Around 10:30. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 10:30. Out of 24, 12 were the lines of the masters. I'm trying to say not too much. So I'm trying to dig deeper into the fact that you're saying you're trying to. And I understand the rose is a hint. I don't know enough about Rosicrucians to go that line and say that. Are you talking about the Rosicrucians? I don't know a lot about them. I thought about it. I thought about joining the Rosicrucians. I like organizations that got supposedly secret knowledge, so I can see if they really do have some secret knowledge. 24 crowns, 12 in the line of the masters. Dude, you sure? That sounds awfully like the Emerald Tablets and the Atlanteans. Yeah, Yoshi, I'm quite sure it's Plato. Quite sure it's Plato. Hey, Brian, I got my coffee right here. Got this King and blend. Oh, it's strong as hell. So not the Rosicrucians. You're not talking about the Atlanteans. I don't remember anything about that with the pyramid priest. You're gonna make me go do some research because I think I have a bead in my mind on where you might be going with what you might be talking about. But I don't have that book. That book is not near me. Shit, where is that book? It's upstairs. There's a book I'm gonna have to go and thumb through that I think I may know what you're talking about. Now, what if I told you that tarot cards were allegories that give power to the royals? Now, let me ask you a question. And I know everybody else like, what the hell are they talking about? Does that have anything to do with the rose? If it does, then I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. I just can't get it in my head right now. And definitely the book that I got upstairs would bring it all back to memory. I understand what you're saying, John. Crowns are overrated. Any king can take off his crown and stand in a crowd of people. Why? Because they're all watching the throne. I like that statement. And anybody can ascend to the throne and call themselves a king. Would you be willing to connect? I have a son. I want to incorporate in this type of teaching with him. Uh, it's relative to that connect. Understand this. I coach people as part of my living. So, grant, understand there are plenty of people. I get requests every day for people who want to talk to me one on one. It wouldn't be fair to the people that I do coach to just do it on, hey, we just want to have a conversation. We're going to get deep into the things that they pay for me to coach them on. So when it comes to things like that, it has to go through my coaching company. What is that? That's the second time you put that up there. I can barely see what the hell that is. It's like a little heel. I don't know what that is. I can't see. I like this one. Unless you do things kingly, you ain't shit. That's right. And unfortunately, I cannot think of a person who has done things, a person who actually has been on a throne that I would give that level of credit to. Not that they've done everything jacked up, but some have done things right. But usually they've done a whole bunch of messed up stuff. Honey Hogan. I like that name. Um, that name is off of some movie or something. Anyway, off topic. There is no off topic now. Everything is up for grabs. What is your take on Christmas, right or wrong? Is it a money grab? How do you see it? I was a little upset when I found out the truth. Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about, wordless. But let me get to this one. So Christmas. And of course, we're going to do a video about Christmas, a live about Christmas. But Christmas is a huge blend of a bunch of stuff over history. I don't celebrate Christmas religiously. That there are people who I do deal with people who just see it as a holiday. It is a money grab. It's become a money grab. Or in its original formats, it wasn't about money. It was different religious aspects of different people from different areas. Um, the Christians, the Romans, the Gaelic, all these different people had this winter solstice celebration, and it did have religious connotations to all those people, as well as spiritual revelation. And then, of course, they made it match whatever their religion is or was, because some of them aren't practicing anymore. Today, though, is pretty much a money grab. I never taught my children to believe in Christmas and Santa Claus and all that bull, so that they wouldn't go through the disappointment that I went through as a child. And so they never went through that disappointment. But there's a ton of history actually on Christmas from multiple points of view. But I do accept that some people just do it for fun and some people just do it for family. And even for myself, this Saturday is my family's annual Christmas party. Guess who started that party 26 years ago? Me. But did I start it because of religious convictions? No. I started it because when I came back from Germany, my family had fractured after the death of my grandmother. And so like for 4 or 5 years, we had fractured. And I started that party as well as the family vacation as a method to keep my family together the larger family together, all the cousins and aunts and uncles and all that. So to me, that's all Christmas represents, is family. How do you get? There you go. That's how you get connected to my coaching company. And what if what I just missed it? Working for the 12. Do you agree? If my mind is thinking where your mind is at, then I would agree with you on that. And then I would push it even further beyond the 12. But that would be a more of a private conversation. All today's leaders are corrupt. You know, some more than others, yes. But I don't think you could be a leader. I think it'd be very difficult to be a nation leader today. You're going to have to do some dirty shit in order to get certain things done. It's unfortunate, but I just don't think the larger humanity's consciousness is elevated to a point where a leader can be more good than bad. Well, it can be good without having to do corrupt stuff. I do think that time is quickly approaching when a leader can do more good than bad. You can do good without having to accept some jacked up stuff. Would you agree the song Saturday is Saturday in the Park, a song? I don't know that song. At least I can't think of it right off the but I can't play it. I can't get demonetized because, Facebook and YouTube, TikTok, they quick to demonetize some shit. Oh my gosh. This woman. Bilderberg or Majestics. There's a lot of groups out there. There's the Bilderbergs. There's the Bohemian Grove. There's the 13 Families. There's some groups that are beyond the 13 families that control the 13 families. There's a whole bunch of them. Oh, I do know that. I do remember that song. I can't remember how it goes though. I'm gonna have to listen to the lyrics. I'm gonna listen to the lyrics of that song, and then we gonna see. I'm gonna listen to the lyrics, and then we gonna see. Let me check something right quick. I thought I heard somebody outside my house, and obviously there's a delivery that's headed to my house that I did not know about, but somebody just let me know. But I could have sworn I just heard something a few seconds ago. Okay. let's see, what's this, Coach? I like watching great speaker debate. The best of them speakers keep around 4 to 6 trains of thoughts going out from team 118. Ah, thank you. I do what I can. I do what I can. When the World War folks were married to Germans and Australians leading with the simple name change, no, today need code. Yeah, marriage was a contract for power and um, they use marriage. Marriage is often used as a contract for power and prestige and to unite groups and all that sort of thing. Hold on for a second. Let me check my front door because I could swear I heard somebody at the front door and somebody sent a delivery to my door without letting me know they was sending a delivery to my door. I ain't gonna name no names. Sorry about that. Some people hard-headed. That's all I gotta say about that. Some people hard-headed. I told them what I was gonna eat for dinner, but no. But see, that goes back to action. She up there not feeling well, but not ordered some food, and I told her I would take care of whatever's in the kitchen and make something. No, she gotta go in. But that's action, though, right? That's action. Yeah, that they got a whole lot of inbreeding that goes on in those so-called royal families. That's why they were mad at that Megan girl or Harry, whatever the hell his name is, messing up the bloodline. But according to the Anunnaki story, the royal bloodlines were supposed to be those who had the highest amount of Anunnaki blood in them when the Anunnaki decided to pull away and set up humans as puppet regimes. That was supposed to be the royal bloodline. Because even in the Anunnaki stories themselves, the way they kept their royal bloodline was for, Anu and Ki were brother and sisters, and they, and had enlil. And they were marrying and having sex with their own cousins and sisters and granddaughters and all this kind of stuff. So they just kept doing the same thing. And humans, doing that same thing is going to create all kind of issues. Oh, Chicago, the group. What? Hold on, you sure? Chicago sings that song. Now they can't sing the original version, but I'm a fan of Chicago. Like I saw them in concert. I saw them in concert in Biloxi. It was Chicago, and Peter Cetera was there, and it was Hall and Oates. Okay, so I'm gonna look up the Chicago version. Now I'll look up both. I look at whatever version, the original and Chicago. But yeah, Chicago, man, I'm telling you, that was one of the. I'm a child of I grew up in the '80s, so Chicago and Hall and Oates together. And I wasn't the only black person in that. All that sappy. Hey man, hey, don't make me. I'm coming to Washington this summer, so don't get messed up, Brian. When I come to Washington, I'll have to drop some bows on you now. Blue Eyed Soul. What's it called? Saturday in the Park. Let's look it up. All right, let's get some more questions going while. Yeah, I see it. Is Chicago? They the original singers of this. Oh, by Robert Lamb. Full lyrics. So Saturday in the park. I think it was the 4th of July. Saturday in the park. I think it was the 4th of July. People dancing, people laughing. A man selling ice cream, singing Italian songs. El Champera, Chivo Sonata. I have to look and see what that means in Italian. Can you dig it? Yes, I can. I've been waiting such a long time for Saturday, another day in the park. I think that was 4th of July. People talking, smiling, the man playing guitar, all singing for us. Will you help him change the world? Can you dig it? I've been waiting for such a long time for today. Slow motion riders flying the color of the day in the bronze. A bronze man can still tell stories his own way. Listen, children, all is not lost. All is not lost. Oh, no, no. Fun days in the park every day is 4th of July. A real celebration. People reaching, people touching, a real celebration for us. If we want it, really want it, yes, you can dig. Yes, you can dig it. Yes, I can. I've been waiting such a long. Interesting. I'm gonna have to think about this one for a minute. And then dig into but so to really understand what a song is talking about, you also have to dig into the psychology of the person who wrote the lyrics. So I would have to do research on Robert Lamb to understand who he is and his upbringing, his thought process, see if there's any videos where he's talking about his philosophy or writings where he's talking about his philosophy on life. That's often how you can find out what somebody really meant in a song. It was just like my man who sang that song Hallelujah. People didn't realize he was talking about getting an orgasm. He wasn't singing a praise song. So every time I hear church singing that song, I was like, y'all singing about a man getting an orgasm. Chicago and Earth, Wind and Fire in concert. Oh shit, Andrea, that's a concert too right there. Chicago and Earth, Wind and Fire. Yoshi, now I would go to that concert today. I would go to that today. No, okay. No, Hallelujah doesn't mean orgasm, but the guy who wrote the song Hallelujah, he was talking about an orgasm. He wasn't talking about the song. He wasn't talking about, like, he wasn't praising no deity. All right, so now look at the Feast of Kronos. Okay, let me see what he says right here, and then I'm going to explain the Hallelujah song. Now look at the Feast of Kronos and where they would celebrate it. Here's a hint in the place that they speak of Italian and Greek and Latin. All right, so we're gonna look that up. But first, this Hallelujah song. Listen to the lyrics. Now, if I play it, it was on the movie Shrek. If I play it, it'll demonetize the channel. Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But if you don't really care for music, he said, but you don't really care for music, do you? If it goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor falls, the major lift, the baffled king composed the Hallelujah. All right. That's to that, right? Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof. Her beauty and the moonlight overthrew her. She tied you to a kitchen chair. She broke your throne and cut your hair, and from your lips drew the hallelujah. What do you think he's talking about? Oh, just, yeah, it don't make sense to throw that in a song. But I listened to the interview with the guy. He was saying that he was talking about an orgasm because this was right after he had just had sex. But yeah, tied his ass to the kitchen chair, broke your throne, and she cut your hair. And from your lips, she drew the hallelujah. But maybe there's a God above. As for me, well, maybe there's a God above. As for me, all I've ever learned from love is how to shoot somebody who withdrew you, or how to shoot somebody who outdrew you. But but it's not a crime that you're here tonight. It's not some pilgrim who claims to have seen the light. No, it's a cold and it's a very broken hallelujah. Well, people, I've been here before. I know this room and I've walked this floor. You see, I used to live alone before I knew you. And I've seen your flag on a marble arch. But listen, love is not some kind of victory march. No, it's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. There was a time you let me know what's really going on below. But now you never show it to me, do you? And I remember when I moved in you, and the holy dove, she was moving too. And every single breath we drew the hallelujah. Now I've done my best. I know it's not much. I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch. I've told the truth. I didn't come here to London just to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I stand right here before the Lord of songs with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah. Ah. No, I don't agree. Hallelujah is not describing the ritual of becoming a monk of Sophia. Leonard Cohen, I saw him in an interview where he expressly said he was talking about busting a nut. That's it. He's talking about busting a nut. Now, that's what the man who wrote the song, sang the song, said it was what the song was about. So, I'm going to take the artist's words for it. That's what he was talking about. It's an offshoot of Ashura. Now, I might lend you some leeway on the fact that there are many, in many ancient rituals, there are sexual rituals. As a person who practices tantra, I'm fully aware that sex is an integral part of many different spiritual practices. So he could have it could be part of some type of ritualistic thing as well. I figure you meant Asherah. And as most people here know, if you've been on my channel long enough, you know that Asherah was Yahweh's wife. And then subsequently, when Yahweh and El becomes combined into one is El's wife. When they go from Israelite, when they were Israelites, it was Yahweh's wife. When they became Hebrew, it was El's wife. And then after Hezekiah, Josiah, and Ezra, she became a stick. You got rid of her, period. And for all intents and purposes, if you look at some of the way that it was originally written, said in the beginning with Sophia, God created the universe. Sophia then, which is representative of the feminine energy and wisdom, would then be Asherah as well. They would be Sophia and Asherah would be the same. So it wasn't wrong earlier in your stance. So let me correct on this one, becoming a monk of Sophia, that Asherah and Sophia would be the same entity, same energy, the same thought process, because they eventually wind up being merged together as one. Until you get to the Christians, until the Hebrew get rid of Asherah and Sophia, and Christians completely get rid of Sophia and just make Sophia the Holy Spirit, make her a ghost. But and that's the reason for shaving the head and ritual, so you do not hold on to anything you are in the present. You can always tell me shut up if I say too much. Nah, I wouldn't say that. Nah. Here's the thing about coded information. I can say a bunch of things, and I can say some things that are coded, but people wouldn't know what the hell I was talking about. So only those who know would know. Now, there are certain things that I still just wouldn't say. So I do understand what you mean. There's a lot of those different sexual rituals were created by women. They need to create ways to control men's urges and from being brutally raped or just taken. Now, this is true. Later on, you're absolutely right. But prior to the patriarchy becoming more of a major thing, it was of equal value. Like, many cultures practice a dualism of masculine and feminine being equal parts and needed in order to manifest anything, because it goes back to the teachings of the Kabbalion with the law of generation, or the law of most people just call it the law of gender. That's how it's spoken of most of the time. I like to call it the law of generation because it creates. You cannot create anything without a balance of the masculine and the feminine. But if you look at a lot of the ancient religions, they had the priest and the priestess. You didn't just have priest, but there was equal partnership of the priest and the priestess. You had this with the Kemetics, you had this with the Akkadians, the Sumerians, some of your more ancient Aztecs, Mayans, Polynesians. They had both the priest and the priestess, and both were needed in order to manifest anything. And there were many sexual rituals that was performed in the holiest of holies, whatever they call inside their temples, in order to see things in the future, manifest things of harvest or whatever. The Immaculate Conception in the Kemetic form was the couple learning how to have spiritual sex in the midst of their physical sex in order to have a clean birth. So there are some rituals that were created by women to curb men, but earlier it was a balance. We've been so out of balance for like 6,000-7,000 years. But if you go beyond the 6,000 year mark, I'm gonna say about 4,000-5,000 years. You go beyond about the 4,000-5,000 year mark, you see more balance. But we are going to close out for today. It's been a good one. It's been a good one. Not as long as normal, but this is in the evening. And y'all know what my evening times are for Angelina. And even though she's not feeling well right now, she's still, piece of the house. But I appreciate you guys. And we will be here tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow at our normal time. Do not get used to this evening stuff, because evening is not going to be a continuous thing. This evening happened because earlier today I was not available. But we are going to, so tomorrow, I'm definitely starting closest to 10:30 as possible, because I know I'm gonna have to stop somewhere around 12:30. Well, somewhere around 12:30, 12:45. Got to take the mama lady to the doctor again. So I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Remember, always you gotta share the videos, share the channels, go like the other channels. The Art of Tantric Sex. The Art of Tantric Love, sorry. Art of Tantric Love. Eat, sip, smoke, and travel. If you like travel shit and cooking and all that, and cigars and liquor. And really, did you know, that's Angelina's page where she talks about different things that we just didn't know where it came from. Like Goody Two Shoes. Like, where did Goody Two Shoes come from? So go to her channel and follow and subscribe to her channel, especially on the Facebook versions. We like Facebook, the Facebook versions. We spend more time on Facebook than the other ones. So y'all have a great day. Remember, always, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is not negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and I'm out. Peace.